For centuries, we have been trying to fix our economic system. We've had revolutionaries, reformers, entire nations have poured everything they have into building something new, something better. And yet, here we are. The same fundamental problems just never seem to go away. So, why is that? It's a really good question, right? It's a genuine puzzle. We see systems adapt, sure, they evolve and they mutate, but the core issues, they just seem to persist, don't they? So why can't we break the cycle? What are we missing? And think about it. It doesn't matter what label we stick on it, capitalism, socialism, something in between. The same old problems keep popping up. Inequality gets worse, economies feel shaky and unstable, and power always seems to end up concentrated in the hands of a few. The names change, the leaders change, but the results? Eerily similar. And that suggests the real problem isn't what's on the surface. Yeah, it's easy to blame the usual suspects. Bad leaders, terrible policies, greedy corporations. And look, those things definitely play a part, for sure. But what if they're not the root cause? What if the reason all our attempts to fix things fail is because we're not questioning the biggest, most fundamental assumption of all? To find the answer, we have to start with a question that sounds almost too basic. What even is the economy? Because, and this is the wild part, for most of human history, that concept, it just didn't exist. Seriously, think about it. Early humans didn't break up their day into economic activities and social activities. Hunting, gathering, sharing with the group, that wasn't a job. It was just, well, it was life. We don't talk about a baboon economy, right? Because we get that their survival is all wrapped up in their social lives. And for us, it used to be exactly the same. So for thousands and thousands of years, life was just this one integrated thing. But then something shifted. In places like ancient Mesopotamia, societies got really good at farming and started producing a surplus, way more than they needed just to get by. And all of a sudden, you need a way to manage all that extra stuff. This gave rise to a whole new class of people, managers who kept records and decided who got what. And right there, in that moment, the economy was born as a separate, measurable thing. And this, right here, is the key. The economy isn't some law of nature like gravity. It's a human invention. It's a system that we designed for one very specific purpose, to manage and grow a surplus. And realizing that, well, that changes everything. Okay, so if the economy is just a management system we invented, why have all our attempts to change it failed so spectacularly? The answer, and this might be a big one, is that we may have been fighting the completely wrong battle for the last couple of 100 years. You know the drill. The great big debate has always been about ownership. Capitalism says the means of production, the factories, the land, should be privately owned. Socialism says they should be owned by the public, or socially. Pretty much our entire political world is built on this one argument. But for all their yelling and all their differences, what's the one piece of the puzzle that both systems just take for granted? The one core assumption they never think to question. Money. It's just there. It's treated like a law of physics, the unquestioned, invisible foundation that absolutely everything else is built on top of. And this is why real change is so hard to come by. We get into huge fights about tax rates and regulations and who owns the factories. But because all of these arguments happen inside the money system, all we're ever really doing is just rearranging the furniture. We're never actually changing the room itself. So if ownership is the distraction and money is the hidden foundation, what's the real engine? What actually makes society run? To understand that, we need to zoom out and look at something way more fundamental. This quote just reframes everything. What if history isn't just about who owns the stuff? What if the real story is the struggle over who controls the way we trade, the way we transact, the system of exchange itself? Because that's where the real power has always been. And that leads us to this really powerful idea, the money prison. What is it? Well, it's a system where our ability to get what we need, to trade, to cooperate, even to survive, is totally dependent on having money. And here's the kicker. The creation of that money is controlled by a tiny, powerful alliance of governments and banks. Our entire modern world is built on a fatal assumption that money is number one. It's the most fundamental thing, the bedrock, the glue that holds us all together. But the reality is, that's completely backwards. Exchange is the foundation. Money is just one tool. A really powerful one, don't get me wrong, but it's just one of many, many possible tools we could use to make exchange happen. And this goes so much deeper than just human society. Every single living thing, from a tiny cell in your body to a massive forest ecosystem, survives because of constant exchange of energy, of nutrients, of information. Exchange is a fundamental principle of life itself. Money? That's just a thing we invented a few thousand years ago.
So, okay, if we're stuck inside this money prison, how do we get out? Well, the answer is kind of beautiful. You don't try to tear the prison down. You don't try to reform it from the inside. You just make it obsolete.
And that leads us to the big practical question, right? If the global system is just too huge to change from the top down, what can any of us actually do about it? How do you escape? The answer isn't some sci-fi fantasy. It's about diversifying how we exchange value. And by doing that, we weaken money's monopoly. And these alternatives, they already exist all around us. Think about things like time banks, where an hour of your time helping a neighbor fix their fence is worth exactly 1 credit, which you can then use to get an hour of someone else's time to teach you guitar. These are real systems where people trade skills and services directly, with no official money changing hands. And this is the core insight. The goal here isn't a revolution, it's parallel operation. You don't have to destroy the old system, you just build new, better, more direct ways of exchanging value right alongside it, until the old system just becomes less and less necessary. So the path forward isn't some grand political movement. It's a really profound shift in how we see things. First, you just have to recognize that exchange is the real foundation, not money. Second, start to diversify the ways you exchange value with the people around you. And third, just by doing that, you are actively helping that old restrictive system become obsolete. Not by fighting it, but by simply outgrowing it. This quote just says it all, doesn't it? Instead of pouring all our energy into trying to reform the prison, we can simply choose to walk out of it. And that is such a liberating thought. It shifts the power away from these massive, untouchable systems and puts it right back into our hands, in our communities, and in our direct relationships with each other. Makes you think, doesn't it?